Biden and Bernie spoke about the war in Afghanistan, and some interesting points were made here in the back and forth. Let's dive into it.
Confidential documents published last week by the Washington Post revealed that for years, senior U.S. officials misled the public about the war in Afghanistan. As vice president, what did you know?
Afghanistan, you said?
Yes, sir, Afghanistan.
That's it.
As vice president, what did you know about the state of the war, and do you believe that you were honest with the American people about it?
The reason I can speak to this, it's well known, if any of you followed it, my view on Afghanistan. I was sent by the president before we got sworn in to Afghanistan to come back with a report. I said there was no comprehensive policy available, and then I got in a big fight for a long time with the Pentagon because I strongly opposed the nation-building notion we set about. Rebuilding that country as a whole nation is beyond our capacity. I argued from the very beginning that we should have a policy that was based on an anti-terrorism policy with a very small footprint that in fact only had special forces to deal with potential threats from that territory to the United States of America. The first thing I would do as President of the United States of America is to make sure that we brought all combat troops home, entered into a negotiation with the Taliban, but I would leave behind special forces in small numbers to be able to deal with the potential threat unless we got a real good negotiation accomplished to deal with terrorism. That's been my position from the beginning. That's why I think Secretary Gates and some members of the Pentagon weren't happy with me.
Mr. Biden, the question was about your time in the White House, though.
And I'm talking about the White House.
In that Washington Post report, there's a senior national security official who said that there was constant pressure from the Obama White House to produce figures showing the troop surge was working, and I'm quoting from the report here, despite hard evidence to the contrary. What do you say to that?
Since 2009, go back and look, I was on the opposite side of that with the Pentagon. The only reason I can speak to it now is because it's been published. It's been published thoroughly. I'm the guy from the beginning who argued that it was a big, big mistake to surge forces to Afghanistan, period. We should not have done it. And I argued against it constantly.
Senator Sanders, you had your hand up?
Well, in all due respect to Joe, you're also the guy who helped lead us into the disastrous war in Iraq. What we need to do is, I think, rethink, and the Washington Post piece was very educational. What we need to rethink is the entire war on terror. We have lost thousands of our own men and women, brave soldiers. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have been killed abroad or forced to leave their countries. It is time right now that we bring this world together to try to end these endless wars and address the root causes which are causing these wars.
Senator Sanders, you do often point to your vote against the war in Iraq as evidence of your judgment on foreign policy, but you did vote for the war in Afghanistan, and as recently as 2015, you said you supported a continued U.S. troop presence there. Was that support a mistake?
Well, only one person, my good friend Barbara Lee, was right on that issue. She was the only person in the House to vote against the war in Afghanistan. She was right, I was wrong. So was everybody else in the House. But to answer your question, I don't think you do what Trump does and make foreign policy decisions based on a tweet at 3 a.m. in the morning or desert your longtime allies like the Kurds. I think you work with the international community. You remove all troops over a period of time, a short period of time, within 1 year.
So this was a very substantive part of the debate, clearly. And there were a few noteworthy things there. Bernie flat out saying, I was wrong to vote in favor of the Afghanistan war. That's a big deal. Because for the longest time, the notion that everybody seemed to agree with to one extent or another is like, and Obama won on this message when he ran, oh, Iraq was the stupid war, Afghanistan was the smart war. And so obviously we all agree that Afghanistan made sense because we had to get back Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda for what they did here on 9/11, but just Iraq was the wrong war. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with it. So don't go into Iraq, but Afghanistan's a good idea. And in fact, Obama, of course, did the massive troop surge in Afghanistan. So for Bernie to say, no, actually, Barbara Lee was right, and we shouldn't have gone into Afghanistan either, that means there's a big shift now, even on the Afghanistan war, in the sense that a long time ago, the public turned on the Iraq war, and they've turned on the Afghanistan war a while ago too, but now it's solidified now. It's really solidified. We covered the story. This goes back to, honestly, the poll came out in like 2013, but only 17% of the American people still want to be in Afghanistan. 17%. Guys, that means it's more unpopular than the war in Vietnam. In Vietnam. And we're still there. Now, in those Afghanistan papers, what we found out was, and this also gets back to Biden, by the way, we found out that every step of the way, we were being lied to. So throughout all the Obama years, obviously Bush lied to us, but throughout the Obama years, we were lied to. Now, even under the Trump administration, we're being lied to. When Obama did the surge, the administration would make disingenuous arguments. And they in part got this from the Bush administration when they did the surge in Iraq too. They would say, if the violence ticked up, they would say, oh, that's a good sign because it shows that they're desperate and they're in their last throes and we're going to win. But then when the violence would go down, they would say, oh, so we defeated them. That's a good sign. It means we're winning. And then the violence would just keep yo-yoing. Sometimes it'd go down, sometimes it'd go up, but the response would always be from the administration in these committee hearings. You got the, military people dressed in their uniforms, talking, acting very serious. They would always say the same thing. We need more time. We need more time. We need more time. We're winning, but we need more time. We need more time. So they would say we need more time. They would never give concrete goals. So they're asking for more time, but they're not giving you when the theoretical scenario, when they could declare victory and come home. And also, every time they came there, they would say we're winning, regardless of what's happening on the ground. So everybody should have noticed it at the time. That's a massive contradiction. You can't say we're winning when the violence goes up and we're winning when the violence goes down, because then it's a non-falsifiable claim, and obviously you're saying we're winning no matter what. But they did that. Joe Biden was part of the administration that lied to everybody every step of the way. So when he says here, no, I was on the opposite side of that. Okay, so then if we take you at your word, you were massively, massively ineffective at convincing your president, when you're the VP, that what he's doing is dead wrong. So either Joe Biden is lying here and he was actively on the wrong side, which, by the way, I think that's much more likely to be the case. But even if you take him at his word, okay, then you were terribly ineffective at imposing your will and convincing the president to do the right thing. Either way, I'm not going to roll the dice on somebody who's wrong on Iraq and wrong on Afghanistan, and somebody who doesn't learn those lessons going forward. Because, like, now, what'd you get? You saw with Hillary, too. It's like, oh, yeah, totally, we learned the lesson of Iraq. You don't wage illegal and offensive wars against a country that didn't attack us. And then, like, 2 minutes later, by the way, we need to go topple the Syrian government. What? How do you not see the contradiction? That drives me crazy. That drives me crazy. But here's the bottom line. Biden, of course, would be business as usual. Absolutely would be business as usual. And now we know, yeah, you can say one of the wrong votes that Bernie took was for the war in Afghanistan. I think that's totally fair to say now. Because we were lied to every step of the way. By the way, what happened? They said, oh, we just got to get Saddam Hussein. Well, you got Saddam Hussein, and why are we still in Iraq? Why are we still there? You achieved that original goal that you said we were going to. And after we killed him, nobody was even like, all right, well, now let's come home. Everybody's just like, I guess we're just there permanently. In Afghanistan, it was, we got to get Osama bin Laden. We got Osama bin Laden a long time ago. And by the way, when we got him, he was in Pakistan, not in Afghanistan. So, again, we achieved our goal, and we're still there. It's almost like it also has something to do with oil in the case of Iraq, trillions in mineral wealth in the case of Afghanistan, the military-industrial complex making money, and geopolitics and making sure we keep a stranglehold on that region and stopping the influence of Russia at the same time. Like, that's really what goes into it. And, but I find Biden's, like, fake mea culpas totally unconvincing. I think he was actively on the wrong side of a lot of these things, and I think he would continue down the path of business as usual in the same way Trump is doing. Trump ran on, like, oh, I'm going to get out of the stupid wars. We're still in the wars. We're still there. So they all get cucked by the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex. They all do it. So you need somebody to go in there with strong convictions. No, this is wrong and we're going to get out. You need that. You need somebody to stand up to them. I certainly don't think you're going to get that with Biden.